Welcome to One Woman. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and on today's show we have our beautiful and amazing guest, Michelle Mackenzie Lander, great friend and just an amazing woman. And that's what we do on this show is we interview the lives and stories of incredible women here in our community and from around the world. So thanks for being on the show today, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
So Michelle, let's start with you as a little girl. You didn't grow up in Canada, you grew up in Trinidad. So tell me a little bit about what that was like.
Well, beside the fact that there's no snow there,
Yes.
I had a wonderful childhood. I had the privilege of being the only child. I was the last great-grandchild to be raised by my great-grandmother and great-grandfather. My grandmother and my mom were here in Canada for school, so I was raised by them and my dad. So I was a little spoiled.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with being a little spoiled. Would you say girls in Trinidad, is it a similar upbringing as to a little girl growing up here in Canada? Is it pretty similar, do you think?
It's very similar. It's based on what's available to you. So I was lucky to have a middle class lifestyle, grew up behind the fence, as I would always call it. Nice yard, nice house, but you stayed in the fence. Because it is the Caribbean and there's different things out there. My dad had a nice government job, so, a wonderful life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So eventually, like you grew up your younger years all the way up till you were 17 that you lived in Trinidad, so up until finishing high school, and then you moved to Canada. So what was it that brought you here?
As I said, my grandma and my mom had come here for school. And so at 17, I guess it was that thing of, well, you must go on to bigger and better things.
Right.
So I was sent, to go to school.
Awesome. So I think that's really amazing when you say your grandmother and your mother moved here to go to school. So they came to Thunder Bay for education, and not many people can say, my grandmother has came here to go to university, or, mom may be a little more typical, but grandmother. So let's talk a little bit about them, going to school a little later in life, why it was important for them, and maybe kind of what was in their heart to kind of take in school.
Well, my grandmother had already finished teacher's college at home, but I had gotten the opportunity of a scholarship to come to LU. So she took that opportunity, left my mom behind. So my mom was raised by my grandmother. And then, of course, later on when my mom had that opportunity, my mom left me with my great-grandmother and came here because my grandma had just started teaching and building a career. So, yeah, it's one of that generation. So for me, being able to come here and continue that, I would say a tradition was a wonderful thing. Yeah. And I did, enjoy that opportunity.
Yeah. And just how much education for women and girls is so valued in your family, because that's not always the case for different places in the world. So that's something that's really been generational in your family, is that, a girl gets her education.
Yeah. On my dad's side and my mom's side, education was very important. I grew up with, they were either teachers or principals. My uncles were lawyers and politicians and professions. So education was number one.
Right.
Yes.
And was it believed in your family that a girl could be anything that she dreamed of when she grew up?
A girl could be anything, but as grandparents, they always put the little influence in. Well, I think you should be a teacher like your aunt, or my dad would be, well, you can be a lawyer like your uncle, or like a doctor or whatever. So, when you're growing up, you don't really have too much aspirations yet of what I want to be. You have ideas of what maybe other people have suggested. So it's not till you have gone away, did your own thing, you go, okay, well, maybe I can do this.
Right. So more family protection, going into something that's known to the family. Yes. And comfort and all that kind of thing. So you moved here at 17. You'd already graduated high school in Trinidad, but like a lot of immigrants, not always all your education is recognized. So was that a frustration, and what happened when you came?
I mean, that's a frustration for most newcomers that come here. I mean, it's a little better now as compared to when I came. But when I came, credentials, under the British system of you have a A+ in math and a this, what does that mean? It wasn't easily assessed. And even though I had finished high school and actually gone to technical college learning computer programming, I was put back in grade 10.
Wow. So that's got to be, when you're 17 and you've already graduated, that's got to be frustrating for you.
It was very frustrating. A new place, new people, and now I was in a classroom with these young kids, and I was like, oh my gosh. But I had great teachers. I went to Hammarskjöld, and I had great teachers there, good guidance counselor that worked with me and realized my potential right away. My math teacher was like, she's bored in this class. You have to. So I went from 10 to 11 to 12 in the space of 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was recognized eventually that yes, you were meeting all the requirements, and you wound up with your Ontario Secondary School diploma.
I did, yes.
And then where did it go from there?
I went on to the college. So as you say, the ambition was, well, I'm going to be an architect because a teacher told me I could. And that lasted about a month into college, and then I said, okay, I'll stick to what I know, business, numbers. So I started with business, accounting, marketing, HR, international business. I spent 5 years at the college.
Good for you.
Yeah, you
Yes.
know, it takes time to get your niche, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Some people know right away what they're going to do, and some people it takes a little time.
Right.
Yeah, but there was a peer pressure, of course. Well, you must have a degree. A college diploma is not enough. Okay. So I went on to university and a little bit of anthropology, a little bit of English lit, and I ended up in psychology.
Wow. So wound up then getting your degree in psychology as well, with a firm background in business. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with Michelle and talk about what came next in her journey. Welcome back to One Woman. I'm your host, Sharla Brown. On today's show, we've been speaking with Michelle Mackenzie Lander all about her her life and what brought her to Canada from Trinidad and all the education in school. So, were you tired of school by the time you got your degree, or are you a lifelong student?
I've decided I'm not going back to school.
You've had enough.
I've had enough.
So where did that take you then? Because now you've got a background in business, you've got a background in psychology. Where did that kind of lead you in life in terms of a career path?
Lucky for me, I've also volunteered. I mean, this is touch base on the fact that when I came to Canada, beside my grandmother and my mom picking me up at the airport, the Black community was not very visible to me. There was lots of families here, but even now you still don't see a lot of them, especially in winter. They tend to disappear. But I started volunteering with Moffat.
Right.
So I've been doing a lot of volunteer work, and he gave me that opportunity for a lot of public speaking, organizing a lot of workshops for newcomer girls. And so from there, once I was graduated, I started doing more things like that. I did a summer placement with immigration, so I got more involved in newcomers and the struggles that they face. And so I ended up at the multicultural, and that's been my home.
Yes, it sure has been, and you've done some amazing work there over the years, and I think you're in a lot of ways the face of the Thunder Bay Multicultural Association because
Sometimes.
you're involved in so many different things. Yes. And so let's talk about that in terms of kind of your role there and what kind of work you do with immigrants on a day-to-day basis.
So my first role there was organizing the Folklore Festival, their annual festival. And so the whole aspect of that and meeting all the different cultural groups and showing how it works for food booths. You'd have a very small group that wants to put on, but they're not a commercial. They don't know about. So it was my way of researching how would they be able to put a food booth in, meeting the health guidelines, and just teaching them how it works for small business. And some of them just did it for the event to showcase their food. Same for the cultural. It's just the dancing and then the exhibit. So I've grown at the folklore. I've learned as I've gone. I've been there 15 years coordinating the folklore festival. So that was a wonderful opportunity. Mm-hmm. But the festival itself was only it's May. It's 2 days, I mean, when we first started, we were organizing, maybe 2 months in, 3 months in. Now we start in January
Yes.
to make sure everything and all the guidelines are met. So in that breakout time, TBMA was happy to find me little other contracts that my skills would work out in. And it was about, I want to say, 8 years ago that we landed with the LIP contract. It's a local immigration partnership. And it was incorporating the whole of Northwestern Ontario in welcoming newcomers. And so that's where I found my niche of, going to the communities and saying, as a newcomer, this is what I faced when I first come here. So what to expect and how to help newcomers settle in your community, especially when they're adding to the economics of your region, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about that a little bit in terms of, at One Woman, we work with women from all around the world. And I think that's a very interesting point to your job, is that you're welcoming, families and women and to Thunder Bay. And kind of what are the things that you notice that when somebody moves here, what are the biggest challenges that people face that when they're coming to Canada?
So under the LIP program, I was getting the community ready to welcome newcomers. Under the RAP program, the Resettlement Assistance Program, I work one-on-one with the newcomers that come here. So biggest challenge is leaving family behind. Most cultural groups function on an extended family basis. Aunts, uncles, mom, grandmas, and for some, leaving those behind. We have a lot of young couples in our group. So for them, new couples leaving his parents, her parents behind, coming here and having a new baby and not having that full support system that, they've seen maybe sisters and brothers have and missing out on that. So it's working with the women here to form a new support system for each other.
Right, right. And how does that go? Like, have you found that's been an easy process with connecting the women? So then there's kind of, a similarity of maybe the language, or getting together and maybe cooking some traditional food,
Yes.
or, taking care of each other's children, that that same kind of, background applies. Do you find there's a comfort there?
Yes. Once you get to know all the ladies individually or together as a group, the ones that would work together, the ones that is their niche. Their niche is, I will cook and bring a meal.
Yes.
Or I'll take the kids. Yes. So each member has found their little niche of what they're good at and what they're willing to do and support.
Right. And I know we talked kind of during the break before about you had a first wedding that happened here.
Yes.
And that's got to be a challenge too, that when you're really used to living in your country and how kind of a wedding goes, and lots of times those are very different as depending on what country you come from. How did that all go?
Yeah, so, most of our Syrian refugees are Muslim. So you'll say, okay, well, we already have a Muslim community here. That would be easy. Just you get the masjid to support them. Well, it's not that simple, because our Muslim community is made up of all different cultures. So if you're putting on a Syrian wedding, well, then you have to rely on the Syrian ladies to kind of chip in and I'm new to this, so I was like, well, what is expected? What must happen? So it was a very nice to have all the ladies come together. Okay, I'll do the coffee, I'll do the tea, I'll do some desserts, and pulled it off in the space of, I think, a week. We only had a week to do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And all turned out well.
Yeah, because the bride and the groom were here, but apparently until you did this party, they couldn't be together.
Right.
So kind of got the ladies, got one that would be in charge and able to explain to everybody, and they know what needs to be done, and just tell me where I could help.
Oh,
Yes.
that's awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. And how about the challenges of coming here as a professional? So say, for example, a woman is a lawyer in another country, or you're a designated professional. I can imagine that could be a challenge, as I know I have friends who that's just, your designation isn't recognized, and you are starting, maybe even sometimes from scratch.
Yeah, in our group we have an architect, engineer architect, we have electricians, we have lawyers. I mean, they've already gone to school, done their 4-year degree. It's very frustrating for them to say, well, for now, all you can do is go to English as a second language school, and we'll work on it. It's very frustrating when you're accustomed and you think that you're going on to a career, and all of a sudden you've halted, right? And it takes time, because there's there's different levels. So you have to be proficient in English before you could do this test. You have to pass this test before you could go on to this. I know for trades guy, it's very hard to just say, okay, could I get into first year apprenticeship? Well, the test is offered in English. So if your English is not very well, you know. So, I mean, we've had wonderful partners working with the unions to say, okay, maybe we would give the test in oral, right, instead of written. So to see where we can help and where we can and move along the process so they can stay in the profession that they were in.
Right, absolutely. Well, we're going to take another quick break, but we're going to be right back and talk more with Michelle. Welcome back to One Woman. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and on today's show, we've been speaking with Michelle Mackenzie Lander and all about her life and definitely her role at the Thunder Bay Multicultural Association. And one thing I often think of, when especially as Syrian refugees moving here, or women who are coming maybe from developing countries, just some of the devastation and things that they have seen or encountered as women or as their family. What is that like for you when somebody's came and that maybe their home's been bombed, or they've been living in hiding, or all the things that they've needed to do to get here?
It's very frustrating to know that I can only give so much of a support system, but we try our best at the Multicultural and with our different partner agencies to at least help mental health. So make sure that their mental health is well looked after. And they have a lot of support system in place.
Yeah, super important for sure. And you're involved with a lot of things, Michelle. So like along with all the people that you help through the Thunder Bay Multicultural Association, I know of you being involved with, Black History Month and so many different important events and organizations. So let's talk about some of those and why they're so important for you.
When I first came here and met Moffat introduced me to a lot of committees that he figured my voice and my experience would be well beneficial to certain committees. Like I sit on the anti-racism committee at the city. Of course, my home organization, which is the Caribbean Multicultural Association. I've been past president, and I've passed the reins on to 2 different people since then. It's wonderful. It's for me, the African Caribbean Multicultural Association of Thunder Bay is it's my family away from family. It's a way for kids to learn about generational concepts. My grandmother will have some sayings sometime, and I go, "What does that mean?" And my niece, she's young, she's Canadian, she's never been home, so she's not, had the privilege of that. The other day she had her project in school for bring something from your traditional. She's Canadian, but for her background is a Trinidadian. Her mom is a Trini, her grandmother is a Trini. So she wanted us to cook curry, and we kind of go, "Is the kids in your class gonna eat curry?" And she's like, "Yeah, I like it. They'll like it. It's okay." But getting her to try that in the first place was it's a good story we don't have enough time for.
Right.
But that is why the organization is so important, especially for the young generation to embrace their culture. Because they'll go off to university and stuff and meet other kids from different cultures, and it's nice for them to at least they know a little bit.
Know where your roots came from.
Yes,
absolutely. And that's always a question that I ask women is, how do you give back in this world, and why is it important for you? And you're involved in so many things that you do that. And I know you have another organization, or maybe it's a project that helps with domestic violence. So let's talk about that a little bit.
We had a funding program started a couple years ago called NFF, Neighbors, Friends and Family, and it was a way to educate women on what could be done if they find themselves in a domestic situation, partner with some of the agency here. I mean, since the funding no longer exists, but we still kept up with our partner agency to organize things. Like March 8th is coming up for, International Women's. So keeping up those events and ensuring that the public knowledge is still out there so women know what to do, what help is out there for them. It's very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm curious as to kind of in your life up till now, who your biggest role models have been?
My great-grandmother has been my biggest role model. You don't realize what a person is trying to teach you. I mean, when I was young, she's a mama. As you got older, 14, 15, you go, oh my God, why not this shirt? Why not this? Why not too much nail polish? Why not too much lipstick? Why not too much makeup? All these little things. But I realized as I got older, there's a lot of things that she did that I actually paid attention to. She knew how to save. She knew how to budget. A lot of people, she used to run this program called a Susu, we call it again. It was something like what Pero does now, where the women put in money and one person gets to collect all of it once a month, and they just do that.
Like a peer lending.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was like, hey, I learned that from way back then. This is not a new thing, and supported a lot of women back then, helping them buy things that they needed. So I realized that I learned a lot of things from her that I didn't think I was learning, but I use it in my everyday life now. My dad is my #1 supporter now. He's always teach me to, you don't get anything for free. You have to work hard for it. You appreciate it more if you earned it yourself. So those people go with me every day, and the learning that I got from them goes with me every day in my everyday life.
That's awesome. And you work with so many women from various, backgrounds, ages, from young girls who are coming here to go to school to older women who are coming here. What advice would you give women in this world, whether it's, following their dreams or living their passion or following their heart? What are the things that you've learned in life that you would pass on to other women in this world, much like your maybe great-grandmother has done for you?
What would I would say that you don't only get one chance to make a first impression, right? I know that's when opportunities come, take it. If you flop, that's okay, because you tried. It's better to try and not have done it at all, because sometimes you'll go back and you think, I should have done that. I remember one of the things, my biggest thing was public speaking, and I know Moffat used to push me. Go talk. A politician would be visiting, and we would have gone to an event, and he would push me, go, it's okay. I'm like, I'm shy, don't go, and I think those push that he gave me many years ago has allowed me to have a voice where I'm not afraid to, in a setting where it needs to be spoken up, I'm able to do that now.
Wonderful. And, you're still a young woman, Michelle. You still got a lot of living to do. So I'm curious as to, we've kind of covered your life up to this point. What are kind of some of your future goals or things that you'd like to make sure that you do or accomplish in this lifetime?
I would hope that as I get older, I would try to be able to take it easy a little more. I always say to people, I work the same job 24 hours. I only get paid for about 7 of it, but I do the rest just because I love doing what I do. I'm just going to continue doing what I love doing. What makes you feel at peace? When I lay my head on my pillow at night, I go, okay, I've done some good stuff today. I can't wait to get up tomorrow to keep doing it again.
Wow. And I think that's a true testament for every woman,
Yes.
is that you just want to live a life that you love every single day. And you are a woman who's definitely doing that.
Yes.
So I want to thank you, Michelle, for being on the show today and sharing with our viewers your amazing life, all the work that you do to help women, girls, and entire families in our country. You make a huge difference with the work that you do.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Be sure to watch next week with more on One Woman.